Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. For today's video, I am sharing with you guys how I create my reading quiz slash assessments and kind of just where I grab everything from and how I create them and my plan behind them for this upcoming school year. If you are a teacher and you are interested in learning more about how to create an assessment that is a little bit more efficient as far as grading and students being able to easily reflect their scores, I highly suggest you watch this video. This is how I used to do my assessments when I taught elementary back a few years ago, but when I switched to middle school, things kind of were just different, and then I came here and I just went through my first full year at this school teaching 5th grade. I did not enjoy the way I was I did not enjoy the way that I was providing my students with their assessments. It was way too much grading on my end to go through and manually grade them. So for this coming up school year, I am switching the way I am creating my weekly assessments. And so if you're interested in kind of how I am implementing that for reading, then keep watching. I do plan to do the same system with math. I just hope I get the time before the school year starts to prepare those assessments, at least the first chapter. But obviously when it comes to math, you have to teach several lessons before you get to the assessment. And so I'm not too worried about that, but I do want to make sure I make time to create those assessments and those student reflections because it will just make my life a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I have. If you didn't watch my last video, then you might not have seen this, but I'm going to show you what I have created so far, what it looks like, and then I'm going to walk you through me creating one. It is 7:30. I do teach summer school, so I have about 20 minutes to do this, and then I have about 20 minutes at the end of the day. So if I don't finish it now, I will finish it at the end of the day. But I need to get started, so let's get started. Alright, so this is the platform I plan to use, which is Forms. If you don't know how to get to Forms, you just go to your email, 3x3 dots, and you want to click on Forms. When you get to Forms, you're going to create a quiz. And so these are the quizzes I've created so far. I'm just going to show you quiz number 1 and what it looks like. So here it's the title of the quiz, which is Unit 1, Week 1. For my curriculum, we use Wonders, and each unit has its own book, and within each unit there are 5 weeks of lessons and things you have to go over and teach and read and write and all that. And so this assessment is focusing on the reading skills and strategies and vocabulary. And so what I did is so this is what my curriculum looks like, and each week, there's listening comprehension, there's vocabulary, there's an introductory, and then you have your first story. This is like your short story that you read, and then you have your skills. So for this week's comprehension strategy is to reread, which is standard RL 5.1, and then you have your comprehension skill, which is sequence, which is standard RL, I think it's 5.3, or this is actually a 3rd grade standard because they've learned this since 3rd grade. And so then you have your genre, realistic fiction, which is a 4th grade standard, as well as a 5th grade standard. And then you have your vocabulary strategy, which this week is context clues, which is a 5th grade standard, 5.4a and 5.4c. And so those standards tell me what they are to be able to do by the end of the week, or what they should be focusing on by the end of the week. And so on these assessments, I'm basically going to my Wonders curriculum online, or I have a book, but I just don't have the book out, and I'm going to the assessment. So on my Wonders curriculum, you can access the assessment by going to the book, and you got to make sure you select Unit 1, Week 1. And then I go to day 5 because day 5 is when they take their assessment. I open up whole group reading, and then you will see weekly assessment. This is the assessment, what it looks like. So what I plan to do is I'm only printing off the stories. So there's 2 stories for every weekly assessment. I'm planning to only print out the 2 stories and the writing. I'm going to still have them do the writing because that is a practice they need to be able to utilize race and restate an answer, compare, doing whatever skills is needed based on the writing that week. And so I then read through all of the questions, and then there's 5 questions for each story, right? And then you get to the second story, and then there's another set of 5 questions. And then for the teacher's edition, after the writing, this is the writing I would print off. After the writing is the answer key, and this is what I like to use. So this is telling me what standards are being assessed on each question. So question number 1, you can see the standard is the vocabulary standard L54A. And so I go through and I select which questions I want to include in my assessment. And this assessment naturally has 10 questions, with number 11 being the writing. For me, I'm narrowing it to 8 questions, so I'm kind of just selecting which questions I want to remove. And I'm doing this because multiple reasons. One being, I just think a smaller assessment is a little bit easier, where it's like 4 questions from the first story, 4 questions from the second, and it just focuses on those skills. Second of all, sometimes, like I showed you the comprehension skill, it's a 3rd grade standard, so I'm not saying they don't need to practice sequencing, but it's being tested at a 3rd grade level, and I am teaching 5th grade. So as you can see, these RL 3.3s, that's a 3rd grade standard. And so those can be removed, but as you can see, there's like 4 of them. So I'm not removing all of them because I do want them exposed and practicing those skills, but I do remove at least 2, especially when it's a standard that we are no longer, like, it's a 3rd grade standard. So okay, so that is basically what I use to create my quizzes. And those are every Friday. But what I plan to do is on Thursdays, they're going to read that first story and kind of annotate it, because I really want them focusing on annotating. So when we get to our writing week, they know how to annotate those sources, which is practicing for the writing performance tasks that they have on our state test. And so Thursdays, they're going to be reading the first text and annotating. Friday, we will read the second text and annotate it. And then after we read those 2 texts, they will then go on their computers. I will have a link posted on Teams, and they will click on that link, and it will take them right to this quiz. After they are done with their quiz, they are going to select question number 11, or sorry, question number 9 is whose class are you in? And I do this last question just so that when we look at the data, we can categorize it based on teacher, and then we can easily just see our students' assessment scores. And then after they submit their test, then they can see their score, and then this is where I create their student rubric. So for that same assessment, I have a student rubric that I created using those same standards, and I basically turned their standards into student friendly text, but I labeled them learning goals. And so for each learning goal, like, they are able to identify what they needed to be able to do. So learning goal number 1, I can read for comprehension and recognize when I need to reread a text, which is standard RL51, which is to reread. And so then I will go through the assessment, then go to the assessment and see, okay, which questions were focusing on comprehension, like where they needed to reread to understand. And let me look. So I have number 2 labeled as learning goal number 1. So I want to show you what that looks like. So it says, read the sentence from the text. And then it says, what does torrential mean in the sentence above? So they are having to use, obviously it is context clues, but they're also having to reread. So I labeled this under reread, focusing on that standard to reread, even though it is context clues, but they kind of double dip in some of these standards, and so I just kind of section them off based on their learning skills, right? And then you have your vocabulary goal, which is context clues. Then down here is where they have to assess. They're reflecting on their assessment scores. So once they're done, they're going to receive their scores. They'll be able to look through and see which questions they got wrong, and then I want them to grade themselves. So for example, goal number 1, I labeled number 2, 4, and 7. So out of three questions, how many did you get correct? If you got 2 out of 3 correct, that means that you understand the standard. If you got 0 out of 1 correct, that means you're still learning standard or goal number 1. And so they are going to be doing this after they submit their test and receive their results. And then I want them to write in a small reflection. So this is just like a 1-page sheet, front and back, and on the back they are going to write what learning goals they know. So they should be writing learning goal number 1, or learning goal number 2, or vocabulary, or all 3, or both, whatever they're still working on, I want them to be writing. They're basically writing that goal, and I want them to write this word for word so that they know what goals they know and what they don't know. And then here, what skills or practices can you implement for next week? This can be rereading the text, utilizing your notes, annotating better, double checking answers. So I'm looking for them to reflect on what skills they need to do to improve their results for next week. And so this is something that every Friday when they are going online to take their assessment, they will have this sheet, they will put their name on this paper, they will fill it out, and I will file it so that when it comes to parent conferences and things like that, or even just for my own record, I am able to go back and see how have they been assessing, how have their assessments been looking, not only looking at data, but looking at how are they reflecting and are they growing. So that is the plan for these rubrics. So I have now 15 minutes to create whatever I can. So I have created the first 3 quizzes and student rubrics. So I am now on week 4. So I'm going to be on week 4, and I like to just go to this page because I can easily see the standard. This week they're focusing on ask and answer questions, which is standard RL 151 once again, which is learning goal 1. So, and I'm going to start off with the quiz. So I need to go to my curriculum instead of going to unit, I don't know if you guys can see, instead of going to unit 1 week 1, I'm going to week 4. I'm going to go to day 5, and I'm going to click on the weekly assessment and open that up. Then I'm going to go to my quiz and create a copy of my last quiz, which is quiz number 3, and I'm going to create a copy and then just relabel everything. This has been a lot easier than starting from scratch. So once I open this up, I just edit this. Our standard focus is still RL51. Then I switch this to week 4. Change this to week 4. Still in quarter 1. This is still a first standard, so RL51. I have the standard listed here so they're able to see that. And then I go to the next standard, which is to sequence, which is standard 5. So then I am going to go. So you see how this says standard RL55, and there is a book that has all of our standards that it's called a reading companion, I believe, and I have mine at home. But what I did was I actually created a little go-to guide that helps me easily access those goals and those standards. So learning goals, you guys can't see that, but this is reading learning goals, and I went and listed all the standards for 5th grade reading. So then I go here, if you guys can see, RO55, analyze the structure of text, including how specific sentences, paragraphs, and large portions of the text relate to each other and the whole. So then I'm going to just come and copy this standard and apply this into this assessment. And then double check my vocabulary standard. Then I'm going to go to the vocabulary page, which this week we're focusing on Greek roots, which is standard L5 4B. L5, so I need to change this to 4B. I don't have that standard written on my little key, but the standard is also listed here, so I'm just gonna copy that into right here. Then my learning goal would be learning goal 5. Let's see if I have that. Where I have all my standards saved for easy access, I also have the learning goals already created. I just need to make sure they're aligned though, because we are focusing on sequencing, so comparing and contrasting the overall structure. This would be learning goal 3. So then I would just take this, copy it, and paste it in. And honestly, this is the standard once again in kids form, so they understand what the standard is without big complex sentences. And then for vocabulary, I can use sentence clues to figure out the meaning of homographs. We are focusing on Greek roots this week, so I would change this to basically restate this last standard, so determine or clarify the meaning, so I can identify the meaning of unknown words based on Greek roots. Okay, and now I'm going into the question. So I get to here, it says questions 1 through 4 are from the text. I need to change this to the text name for this week, and this is where I split my screen just to make it a little bit easier to access back and forth. Okay, bicycles, then and now. This question, okay, so then I go to the questions, and actually I go to the answer key, and I'm going to look at which questions I want to include, make sure the standards are aligned to the text. So Greek roots, sequence, Greek roots, text evidence, sequence, a lot of Greek roots, sequence. Okay, so I can already see that I have two Greek roots here, 2 sequencings. I'll probably do Greek root, sequence, text evidence, and then Greek root, or maybe another text evidence one. Okay, so I think I want to do, so sometimes I will just take a piece of paper. So on this paper, I just go through and I number off which problems I'm going to use. So I'm going to use problem number 1, which is Greek roots. Problem number 2, which is sequencing. Problem number 2A, which is text evidence. And so this is number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. Then I go through and I write the answers so that when I'm making the quiz, I have the correct answer. So for number 1, the answer is C. Number 2A, the answer is B. This is where I just go and I copy the question. So go all the way back up to question number 1, and I just type in whatever it says. So I'm gonna copy it because it's a long quote from the text. Alright, so I don't know how well you guys are able to see, but I kind of just showed you guys how to create the assessment, and I'm right now just finished question number 1, so I need to go and finish the rest. I am going to go pick up my class to start my day. I will come back and finish this either on my lunch or after school, depending on kind of how I'm feeling. But that is basically all I do to create it. It does sound like a lot. It's very repetitive and very tedious, but when you assign this assessment and you see how quick they receive results and you see a class percentage on how your class understood these standards, it will definitely help you moving forward. So for example, if you see a lot of your students are missing the question when it refers to sequencing, then that means you need to pull small groups or focus on reteaching that standard. But honestly, it just makes you kind of guide maybe RTI time, an idea of where your class is at, and then you can also compare it to your other class, the other 5th grade classes on campus. So I think this is going to be a great strategy for this coming up school year. Hopefully this helps you if you are struggling with assessments, or you hate grading your weekly assessments, or you find it like the data is not meaningful to you. I hope this helps, because I know when I was cleaning out my stuff, I came across like my old school's assessment results, and I would every week be reflecting my students' results, and I do that with math, but it's so hard to do it with weekly assessments in reading. And so this is going to help me be more on top of it. I'm going to have a data chart where I get them stickers if you pass with the 80% or better on the assessments, so it's a way for them to be a little bit more eager to try harder and to be more prepared each week. So I will talk with you guys a little bit later. Hey you guys, so it is 10 o'clock. I just came back from the restroom. My class is at recess, and I got some time during the last chunk of ELA to do kind of just some time to myself, because the class was kind of done and I let them do a booklet. And so I have been working on that unit 1 week for assessment, and I actually got it done. So I just want to show you that it is completed. So here's the assessment questions, worth 8 points. And I also went and created the rubric for it as well. And so since I'm kind of just on the roll, I just need to do 1 more week and I'll actually be done with the unit. And so I'm probably going to go ahead and get started on that. Right now I have to get back into teaching because I need to teach the math. But if I get time at the end of this math period or during my lunch, I will be working on Unit 1, Week 5, and then I will be done with Unit 1's student reflections and quizzes. So each week we teach reading. We have this test, and so if I'm done with 5 weeks of quizzes for reading and the rubrics, like that means when the school year comes in August, I will be starting on Unit 2. And although this is tedious work and a little bit time consuming, if I teach 5th grade again next year, I can use all these same quizzes, all these same rubrics. I'll always have these. I can always pass these down to whoever teaches 5th grade, like next, like if we get a new 5th grade teacher or whatever may happen in the future, like it's going to help me to just have these stored and ready to use. And then me practicing these with ELA will get me ready to go into math. And so math is one I'm not sure how I'm going to go about. However, I do have a copy of a math rubric from the last time I did this. So I do have math goals, but this is for 6th grade and it's only chapters 4 through 5. However, I know I can create this for all of our Go Math curriculum, creating the goals, so I can easily do the same thing with the rubric. So that is the plan, and that is what I will do. All right. It's 12 o'clock, almost 12 o'clock, and I am back. I have not worked on the last test like I told you guys I was going to, but I did distract myself and I got started with the math. So what I'm going to be doing, just to kind of get you guys on the right page, is to start off with the math student learning goals. I'm actually just starting off with the goals. I'm going to the chapter and I'm looking at all the standards and what students should be able to do, and then I am adding it to the document in student-friendly language so that those could be the goals. And then I will eventually go through the chapter 1 assessment and select the questions I'm going to be doing, upload those. So the same concept, just with math instead of reading. And so I'm about to just spend the next 15 minutes just really just doing that. And so I don't want to continue to bore you with the same repetition, but I thought this video was super helpful. It was helpful for me to vocalize, kind of explaining what I have done and what I am changing for this upcoming school year. So hopefully this little tip and this little video helps you, because maybe you want to see results instantly on your weekly assessments or your test or whatever it is that you're doing. And so I don't know, try it out. Let me know if you have any questions. I would be more than happy to help anyone in the comments if that is possible. I don't know everyone's curriculum, so obviously it's a little tricky, but as long as you know the standard and what typically you need to be testing on, then that's all that matters. Create a quiz on forms, create a rubric for students to reflect, and that's it. Before I head home, so I was able to create all 5 weeks of the quiz for reading. I also actually completed the mid-chapter test for math, and I didn't start it, but I created it to just get started with my first math chapter test. And so here is the math quiz and how it came out. I created the learning goals for math, and so I haven't done a rubric yet, but this is a good start. Like, I started with this the learning goals. I got all those learning goals, 6 learning goals for chapters 1 and 2, and so it's going to be the same goals when I do chapter 2, and all I have to do is create the rubric. I already got started on creating the test, and I already have the quiz made, so I feel extremely accomplished. I even went ahead and printed off the rubrics for the first 5 weeks of our curriculum, and so those are already prepped and ready to go. And so I'm going to be clearing this off tomorrow and on Thursday, because there's only 2 more days left of summer school, and so that will get cleared off and placed in a location so I can access it come August. But I feel so accomplished. Like, I love the fact that summer school has allowed me to get so much prepared and ready for the start of the school year. And don't get me wrong, because I am still teaching. I am still getting my small groups in. I'm focusing on improving my students' fluency, reading, multiplication. Like, I'm working with my class, but there are opportunities in between where they are working independently, and that is my opportunity where I choose to work ahead and get things done. Okay, so thank you guys again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in my next one. Bye.